Hello and welcome to the Daily Faded. I am Hetz. This is the Daily Faded, where we get faded every night and talk about politics and news of the day. So that's the first step. If you got it, smoke it. If you have a drink, take a little drink. Get faded with me a little bit, just a little bit at the end of the day, to relax, to chill out, to take in all the madness that happened today. Now, I'd love to tell you that I was going to tell you about all the madness, but there was too much madness, so I can't talk about all of it tonight. Nope, too much madness. I'm not going to say nice things about too many people tonight. The only people I have good things to say about are Eric Garcetti and Naomi Klein. Pretty much everybody else, forget about it. They're all toast, including Gavin Newsom and AOC. So shoot down their boats. Donald Trump wants you to know that we are going to shoot down their boats. We'll get to that in just a second. First, and I do have to make a comment on coronavirus numbers. They're kind of ridiculous at this point. I don't know why, but I'm very attached to following the numbers. I think the death toll, the daily death toll, is horrifying. The number of families being ripped apart is just, and the way people have to die with this disease alone in a room. If they're lucky, they get to FaceTime with their family one last time. If they're lucky, it's horrifying. So we're up to over 2.6 million cases confirmed worldwide, which is only an increase of less than 1%. $182,348 deaths, up under 1% worldwide. The United States, as of 7 p.m. tonight, has 848,000 cases, up over 1%, and 47,663 deaths. I'm getting a little bit of a Dead Can Dance vibe here, if you know what I'm talking about. It's getting windy out here. I have to tell you, and then let me just finish that out. We had 1,080 deaths today. I'm not sure that number is accurate. I look at several different places, and I'm just not sure that number is right. But that would be up over 2% from yesterday, which it's not up over 2% from yesterday. So that number is wrong. Scratch that. And then I saw we have 37,000 cases in California and just over 1,400 deaths. I wanted to finish that respectfully before I reported back to you that someone at Ralph's today called me an absolute piece of shit moron. Well, I encouraged him to watch the channel. Seriously, that's what someone called me who's never seen me get stoned and talk about politics before. If only he knew how true it was. Wow, it's getting windy out here tonight. Sorry about that. So, Eric Garcetti is the good guy of the day. He announced that asymptomatic frontline workers, from healthcare personnel to city workers to grocery workers, anyone on the front lines right now can now get tested for COVID-19, even if they're asymptomatic. I think that's a great, great achievement for the county of Los Angeles to be able to do that. That is not the case in most parts of the United States right now. So once again, we have to give credit where credit is due. Now, I did also mention that I was going to talk trash about Gavin Newsom, and here it comes. So I've talked a lot over the last several weeks about the focus on homelessness that both Gavin Newsom and Eric Garcetti have exhibited, and I really do commend them for that. I think it's great work. I think it's important work, and it's really upsetting to the bone that there are not more politicians taking care of the homeless, doing what needs to be done to take care of the homeless. But I do want to point out that the 15,000 beds that Gavin Newsom got for the homeless is only represents 1/10 the population of homeless people in California. There are 151,000 homeless people in this state. So the 15,000 rooms is important because 10% is 10%. That is 15,000 rooms. And that's probably more than 15,000 unhoused people because some families or couples who are together. I know the guy who a local resident who lacks shelter, who I have gotten to know. He lives with his significant other, so they would get a room together alone, I would assume, if they were lucky enough to get a room. But he's still out there most days on the freeway. I worry about him a lot. I almost don't feel the need to comment on that. What an idiotic and stupid thing to say. Mitch McConnell knows perfectly well that states cannot print their own money. It's in the Constitution. And Mitch McConnell has actually read the Constitution, regardless of how it may seem. The only way out of this situation is to print more money. And the states and municipalities and counties, they need it, and they need a lot of it, because all of their budgets collapsed, this economic collapse. All of their tax revenues went down. We're lucky. I do talk a lot about Gavin Newsom, and he is doing a lot that I like. But I think it's important to remember that California is in position to handle this crisis in the way that it's handling it. Jesus, I hope you can hear me over the wind. The reason California is in this shape is because Jerry Brown was actually quite a good governor. And Jerry Brown got us back on the road to solvency as a state. And there was quite a big rainy day fund for Gavin Newsom when he came in. So, so props to Jerry Brown as well. So I've said enough about Mitch McConnell. He's a fucking douchebag. That's just a douchey thing. The whole Republican playbook now is blame the states. What a douchey thing. So, oh God, some people say we need 2 million tests a day. Some people say we need 5 million tests a day. There's one person who says we need 22 million tests a day. And we're doing about 150,000 tests a day. That says let's heal a society during a pandemic, like more militarism and more imperialism. That's, one of the things that's frustrating about Trump is that he frequently makes these threats that he doesn't follow through on. Sometimes they're vague, sometimes they're not vague. But he did this with North Korea, where he incited a war. He threatened fire and fury or whatever, and then back down. He did the same thing with Venezuela. He started talking tough about Venezuela, and then he backed down for a while. We'll see what happens with the current military exercises against Venezuela. But he talked shit about Iran. He backed down. So you gotta take him seriously because he's the president and because he's capable of doing something horrifically stupid, like pulling out of Kurdish Syria without warning anybody. That was idiotic, And right now, to shoot down an Iranian gunboat well, that's just idiotic. To shoot an Iranian gunboat, to sink an Iranian gunboat, doesn't seem like a particularly good idea to me. Now, if they're coming, I don't know. I don't know what they'd have to be doing in order to justify shooting at them. I don't know what, and who knows what they mean by shoot them down, because there's no clear policy. He even was asked today in the press briefing if there was a new standard operating procedure, or new policy, new guidelines for rules of engagement. He didn't seem to know what rules of engagement were. You know, the problem with this whole madman theory, and Trump has clearly embraced the madman theory in foreign affairs. The problem is sometimes the madman is actually a madman. Like, that was Nixon's whole thing, the madman theory. Make him try to guess what you're going to do. But he was carpet bombing Cambodia, Laos, and North Vietnam. Just carpet bombing them. So he was a madman. He was a complete madman. And Trump is capable of being just as much of a madman. So then we go on to the Trumpaganda. I'm not going to spend too much time on Trump tonight. At least I hope not, because I'm sick of it. So I'm sure you heard about the head of the CDC, Dr. Redfield, saying that the second wave of COVID-19 in the fall, the assault of the second wave, were his exact words, could be more difficult than the first wave of the coronavirus. Trump's been saying it's going to go away and it's not going to come back. Over and over again, Trump says it's going away and it's not going to come back. So when he said that yesterday to the Washington Post, and I didn't get the exact quote, I'm sorry about that, but he did say the assault. I know that much. Obviously he was contradicting the president. So Trump comes out today, and what's the first thing he does? Director Redfield has something he'd like to say, and he brings the poor schmuck up, and the guy has to do a song and dance about how, well, I didn't really say it. Well, I kind of said it. Well, it'll be influenza season as well, so we'll have the flu and we'll have COVID-19. And the president kept interrupting. If it comes back at all, I think it's not going to come back because I've got a medical degree and I know what the fuck I'm talking about. What an asshole. But it was the same thing that happened with Fauci. It was the same thing. Bow before me and kiss my ass and apologize for saying something that falls out of line. Oh God, it was so embarrassing. It was humiliating. And then Dr. Birx came out after Trump and Redfield, and she lied on behalf of Trump and Redfield, and talked about how I'm not saying we will need to go to mitigation. I have no fucking idea. But to say we're never going back to mitigation is foolish. It is simply foolish. Learn from history. In the great influenza outbreak of 1918, or as I like to call it, the Kansas flu, the second wave, during the first wave, they shut things down, and then they reopened too quickly, and the second wave was bigger than the first wave. The hospitals are at capacity all over the country. Look at the situation in prisons and in nursing homes and in meat processing facilities. Marion Prison in Ohio has 18. When she said it could come back, Dr. Birx said, yes, it can come back. Trump said, quote, I wrote this down, quote, it can never be anything like we just witnessed now. I am really frustrated at these press briefings that they're all talking about this COVID-19 pandemic, as if it's over, as if we're not losing over 1,000 Americans a day. It's not over. Okay, so intubations have gone down. That's great. The healthcare system has been stretched to its limits. So when they talk about it in the past tense, it infuriates me. Tell someone who just lost someone yesterday, Republican stooge. Oh, that's right. Oh, just let him off Georgians. Let him decide who gets to live and who gets to die. He also referred to Stacey Abrams as he. He talked about Kemp's opponent in the race and referred to Kemp's opponent as he. So that was telling on how big an idiot Trump is. But that's enough Trump for now. AOC went on Rachel Maddow. And that AOC was going to be on Maddow, I was expecting her to get out there and talk about some of the progressive priorities that the Progressive Caucus in the House is trying to push, that they would like adopted into this bill, which includes payments to states and municipalities, and it includes eviction moratoria. It includes direct payroll payments to workers. It's got a lot of important stuff in it. Saving the post office. They've got a lot of important requests that are really things that need to get done. And AOC went on Maddow, and all she did was blame the Republicans for how bad the bill was. She didn't mention the fact that the Democrats did not fight for the state and local governments to get money. We heard from Mitch McConnell today, let him go bankrupt. He doesn't care. He doesn't give a fuck. Jesus, what a bad guy. But I am saying that if she's going to go on Maddow, which is well watched among the Democratic elite circles, if she's going to go on Rachel Maddow, she should pitch her heart out for what she believes in, and she should fight for what's right. And if that upsets some of her colleagues who don't want to pursue those policies right now, she's got to be willing to accept that. You're never going to make any progress, especially in a crucial time like this, if you don't stand up. So I was very disappointing that she just became part of the MSNBC Rachel Maddow anti-Trump propaganda machine. Not that I support Trump. I think I'm pretty clear on that. But that's all it is hate Trump, hate Trump, hate Trump, hate Trump. That's all MSNBC is. That's all it's been since they elected him. Trump tweeted today, or was this yesterday? This may have been yesterday. We will never let the great U.S. oil and gas industry down. I have instructed the Secretary of Energy and Secretary of the Treasury to formulate a plan which would make funds available so that these very important companies and jobs will be secured long into the future. Okay. Not a surprise. We're going to give a lot of what money away to the oil and gas industries. Not a surprise at all. Something to rail against, something to fight, something to oppose, but not a surprise. Anyway, I liked Naomi Klein's quote tweet of that, where she is right. Oil went down to zero, below zero, negative $37 a barrel. Let's shut it down. Let's nationalize the whole goddamn thing right now. I read today that you could buy all of the fossil fuel companies for 1/3 of what was spent in the CARES Act. That's a completely worthy investment as far as I'm concerned. Buy them right. They're going to have to get shut down, so we might as well nationalize them now so that we're ready to do it. From Alternet, and then I have one more thing to talk about here. God, you guys, there's so much more that I want to talk about. But I don't want to go too long. All right, so this is just a quick piece from the Alternet. Quote, 2 weeks after Senator Bernie Sanders warned that moving ahead with in-person voting for the state, speaking about the Wisconsin elections, could, quote, prove deadly, end quote, and dozens of civil rights groups and public health experts urged the election be postponed, 19 people who voted in person or worked at polling locations have since tested positive for the virus. So there was probably viral spread at the Wisconsin primaries, as we said, statistics and pediatrics at the University of California, San Francisco, and is a former commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration from 1990 to 1997. Quote, a team of infectious disease epidemiologists led by Gerardo Chowell of Georgia State University has calculated that we must reduce our social contacts by 65% from what they were before the virus started spreading. By doing this, they believe, we will reach the point at which each existing infection causes less than one new infection. This is what epidemiologists call R for reproduction below 1. Only then will the number of infections begin to fall and we can get the epidemic under control. There's only one viewer right now. I'm sorry, I have to smoke. In broad strokes, here's what we should do. We should reduce our usual contacts by 2/3 if our jobs permit. This reduction will help sustain what we have accomplished by staying at home. Those of us who can should continue to work at home. Those who are at higher risk may need to reduce their contacts even more to stay safe. Back to 2, yay! When we go out, we should wear a face mask, distance ourselves, and if we are touching surfaces on public transportation and stores, we need to consider wearing gloves and wash our hands frequently. People whose jobs require them to be in contact with others, like cashiers and Transportation Security Administration employees, will need plastic barriers, masks, and gloves. Any worker with fever or respiratory symptoms must refrain from going to work. We can't cram people into buses, trains, subways, and airplanes like we once did. And those loads must be cut without creating long lines of people waiting to board. Mass transit agencies and airlines will require subsidies to run more buses, trains, and planes with fewer people on board. Strict protocols for cleaning these conveyances must be put in place. Conductors and flight attendants will need proper face masks. Reopening our world must be done gradually. Businesses need to rethink their workplace to minimize contacts between people. Telecommuting should continue for those who could do their jobs at home. This will allow others who can't work from home to work in areas where Watergate should be closed. Non-essential business travel should be curtailed. If an increase in infection occurs, we'll need to scale back. I've read a lot of think pieces about what reopening means, many of them by very highly qualified academic scholars. And it clearly does not match up with what Brian Kemp is doing in Georgia. that it sure ain't. Ain't? All right, guys, I'm going to call it there. Thank you so much for watching tonight. Make sure to hit the like button and hit subscribe. And thank you for watching.